eat.
What if I told you that hidden beneath the surface of Madagascar, there lies a secret love letter to Jungian psychology? A story that explores the deep dark recesses of our psyche, and with the help of our protagonist Alex, takes us on a journey of discovering the monster that exists inside of us all, as we watch a lion forced to sacrifice the safety and comfort of his old home in exchange for the wild and dangerous world of Madagascar. Along the way, Alex learns that beneath the persona he developed as a tamed, docile gimmick of a lion, merely performing for the guests at the New York Zoo, there lurked a ferocious, dominant, predatory nature synonymous with the animalistic instincts of his lion ancestry. As Alex grapples with the existence of these shadow qualities after so many years of repressing them, he realises how little control he has, and ends up being possessed by them, seeing his best friends as nothing more than pieces of steak to devour. Overcome by fear of this monster within, Alex confines himself to a self-made prison in order to protect those around him from the beast he's become. But it's only by wielding the very qualities he once repressed that he's able to save his friends from Fusa and realise that the very traits he disowned were in fact a very real part of him, and the key to becoming the lion he was always meant to be. Join us as we dive into the world of Madagascar and break down the journey of Alex the lion in discovering the true horrors that lurk within. As the beginning of the story unfolds, we gain insight into Alex's everyday life. He performs for the guests by acting out a facade of lion-like behaviours. All the while, people throw flowers and panties at him. They do not fear him. He isn't a real lion. He's a gimmick that shares some physical semblance to the fierce lions of the wild. When Alex isn't performing, he's being fed steaks whilst he lays underneath a heater, all artificially replicating his environment. Alex's animalistic instincts have been completely tamed. He has no need to hunt for food, no need to battle for survival. He even says that you can't eat a steak in the wild, Marty, when asked to consider leaving the zoo. Alex is so disconnected from his primal self that he doesn't even realise he eats animal flesh. Then we have Alex's interactions with his friends. Whilst talking to Marty, he leans over the fence and even climbs up to roam along the walls whilst he casually chats to Marty. This emphasises how the bars and walls that cage Alex in are all superficial, that Alex has the power to harness his wild side at any point, that he's free to roam the zoo as he likes, yet he voluntarily remains passive and docile. This touches on a grander thread relating to our own freedom to explore our shadows, that we all have the capability to make the horrifying decision to stop looking without and look within. To explore those darker recesses where our deepest thoughts lie, our aggression, jealousy, incompetencies, where all of our insecurities lie dormant, eating away at us. The very same walls that Alex builds between himself and his animalistic wild side are the same walls we build for ourselves in distractions and excuses. The question is, are we willing to break down these walls and face the horrors that lurk beyond them? It's not only the environment that moulds Alex's character, but it's also the people around him. Marty, who longs for the open fields of the wild, constantly encourages Alex to embrace his animalistic urges, to integrate that wild side and embrace what it means to be a lion. Melman, on the other hand, a severe hypochondriac, who instead of food is served platters of medicine, is terrified and anxious for everything. He has completely repressed all essence of his animalistic nature, opting instead for an inherent fear of the unknown, which is symbolised perfectly in his fear of the brown spots on his back that naturally form upon all giraffes. Melman is so prone to anxiety that he fears any reflection of his true nature and is constantly in opposition to leaving the zoo, and perceives the very thought of exploring the outside world as being submerged and eventually consumed by complete chaos. For Melman, the zoo is equivalent to the village at the centre of the dark forest. In the trees he sees rustling in the bushes and shadows lurking, but even the thought of stepping foot beyond the tree line paralyses him with fear. The plot kicks into gear after Marty has an existential crisis about wasting half his zebra life in captivity and achieving nothing at all, and decides to flee the New York Zoo in search of the wild, throwing Alex's refusal to leave the confines of the zoo into total disrepair, as the gang are forced to chase him down to Grand Central Station. When they finally reunite with Marty, all Alex and Melman want to do is return to the safety and security of their zoo, desperate to repair the walls that once separated order and chaos, conscious and unconscious. Alex calls Marty crazy for wanting to leave the safety and comfort of their own home. He cannot understand how someone could be so compelled to leave their sanctuary, where they seemingly have everything they could ever want, in exchange for a charge into the complete unknown. Here, Alex falls for the same tricks many of us do, the veils that exist in our lives that we use to blind ourselves, the cowardice in morality, the projections we thrust upon others for our own faults and insecurities, the emotions like jealousy or resentment that overcome us to compensate for our weaknesses. It's far easier to look without than within, and as Alex yearns for the familiarity of his home, He fears what this new adventure could bring out of him. Shortly after reuniting with Marty, the group are captured and boxed up onto a ship bound for Kenya Wildlife Reservation, where they fall overboard and end up stranded on the remote tropical island of Madagascar. From the moment they arrive, we watch as Alex struggles endlessly to adapt to his natural environment. He can't navigate the terrain, he can't find food, he can't find shelter. Alex lacks the capacity to adapt to living in the wild because he has for so long neglected his animalistic instincts. As a result, instead of harnessing his predatory instincts as a lion and flourishing in his natural habitat by protecting his friends, finding food and shelter for them, and naturally finding his place as king of the jungle, Alex is overwhelmed by his newfound environment, falling victim to the rustling of the leaves, starvation and the elements. Alex falls short because he has rejected the core aspects of his being, this natural predatory instinct that all lions have. The same can be said for us as human beings. When we encounter situations where we rely on traits repressed deep down within our shadow, we fall short. This means we can often be taken advantage of when we encounter more aggressive, dominating characters, fall victim to the cruel or psychotic, as we lack the capacity to even realise or identify the evil they enact. We become jealous, resentful, or simply project our shortcomings onto those around us. And just like we so often do, Alex feels compelled to blame his shortcomings on Marty. Alex doesn't believe it's his own fault his weaknesses are now manifesting in the real world. Instead, he blames Marty for leaving the zoo in the first place. However, as Alex begins to explore the wild, his primal animalistic instincts start to shine through. He stops Tafusa from attacking the lemurs by roaring at a spider and inadvertently scaring them all away without even realising it. He even makes Mort cry simply by saying hello. Gradually, as Alex explores the wild, his natural instincts begin to manifest and he becomes more and more comfortable with them, which culminates in him dreaming of steak falling from the sky and eventually waking up to licking Marty's arse. It's here in the story that we begin to understand and acknowledge the existence of something deep down inside of Alex. We begin to realise that these instincts are in fact very much real. The lemurs then show Alex and friends an oasis hidden deep within the island that epitomises the wild, with grand open plains of tall grass and wilderness, huge beds of water, and roaming animals everywhere. As they become captivated by the environment, Marty and Alex's game of tag evolves into Marty prompting Alex to be a lion by encouraging him to run on all fours. It's here, as Alex is encouraged to integrate his wild side by harnessing the natural posture of a lion, that Alex's primal instincts are unleashed. And instead of integrating those primal traits, Alex becomes consumed by them. The monster Alex has for so long suppressed is now unleashed. And with this, his physical appearance becomes feral, as his ever-kept mane is now an unkempt mess. His eyes are bloodshot, his claws permanently protruding, his roar is deep and carnally aggressive, and he now walks on all fours like a lion. Alex has fallen beyond the realm of bringing his shadow into existence and has become possessed by it. He now sees his friends and all the lemurs as pieces of steak, before pouncing upon Marty in an attempt to hunt his prey. This scene highlights our need to control the shallow qualities that we explore, and the risk encountered if we fail to do so. This is where the greatest critics of this concept often base their argument, suggesting that by both proposing the existence of a shadow phenomenon and that we should exercise these darker traits in the first place, we simply encourage psychopaths, murderers and violent criminals to indulge their fantasies. However, shadow integration means bringing these carnal elements into control, into dominion, not going around inflicting violence, pain and misery onto people around you. Alex loses control of his predatory, aggressive, carnal nature of his shadow because he has for so long failed to bring these elements into dominion. Instead of being in control when external factors catalyse these traits to manifest, he loses all control because he has for so long denied their existence. And so when they finally do manifest, he has no idea how to control them. As Alex finds himself on the brink of hunting down his own best friend to devour him, he banishes himself to the realm of the predators on the other side of the island. Here, Alex constructs a prison to contain himself, with spiked tree trunks spread out in a circle around him, all pointing inwards as if to imprison the dangerous beast within. Alex now acknowledges the very real existence of his shadow, of his animalistic instincts that are predatory in nature, and he's afraid of them. It's not only that Alex believes the monster is who he is, but rather he's afraid of its very existence. He thinks that this means there is something wrong with him, that whenever he can feel the influence, existence or surfacing of these animal instincts, that he is abnormal, a beast, something that cannot survive or coexist with or within civilization. Alex suddenly rejects all possibility of returning to the zoo, or even to his friends, because he now fears what he is becoming. Also, importantly, Alex believes that he is safer to imprison himself and lock these animalistic instincts away, as opposed to learning to integrate them into his personality. He now knows these instincts are very much a part of who he is, but he is afraid of this very fact, and so chooses to repress not only his primal nature, but his entire being. By rejecting the very worst of himself, he also rejects the very best. This response to the darkness within by Alex is often the very same response we share, which is to sacrifice all that we could be in order to ensure that these unruly traits don't manifest. Whether we fear the dark thoughts that run through our heads, the aggressive impulses, our incompetency, whatever unfavourable traits that lurk beneath the surface of our persona might be, we would much rather deny its very natural and very real existence than face the terrifying reality of facing it. Alex has faced a terrifying reflection of his shadow, and is too afraid of what could happen if he allows its contents to surface. As Alex rots away in his self-made prison, the penguins return with the boat and the key to escape Madagascar. But with Alex all alone on the opposite side of the island, the group decide to rescue him, and Marty ventures into predator territory, risking his life to save Alex and show him that he hasn't abandoned him. That he doesn't believe this monster that overcame him is the true Alex, but Alex rejects this plea to escape with him, instead being resigned to spending the rest of his days confined to this prison he created. That is until Marty is surrounded by the Fusa, and Alex is forced into action to save his friend. Now, free from his prison, Alex harnesses his predatory instincts as king of the jungle and feigns to claim Marty as his own prey, warning the Fusa never to set foot in his territory ever again as he brandishes his flaying claws and bared teeth. In a matter of seconds, Alex transforms from suppressing his animalistic instincts to protect his friend into harnessing them in order to save him. Here we see the importance of integration with the shadow in full view. Without bringing his animalistic instincts into consciousness, facing them, struggling with their power and influence, and then eventually integrating them, Alex would have been powerless to sit and watch as our Marty was ripped apart by the Fusa. Instead, Alex is able to channel his predatory nature and wield it not as a blunt force weapon to destroy the Fusa, but as a tool to save his friend and overcome the threat that the Fusa pose. And just as Alex is capable of channeling its animalistic instincts to prosper, we as humans are able to channel the darker aspects of our personalities, of our very nature, in order to shine. We do not need to repress those shadow qualities that haunt us, but rather bring their existence into conscious reality, face them, and work to improve upon them. The alternative to this daunting reality is not living blissfully unaware of our flaws in perfect harmony, but rather repressing these faults and insecurities deep down inside of us until they begin to ingrain their roots into unreachable depths, and from these depths grow vicious vines of poison ivy that will entangle us. This very cycle is what ensnared Alex when he was thrust into the wild, an environment that naturally stirred within the very qualities he had for so long repressed. And so, due to his lack of control and awareness of them, he became so overwhelmed by the instincts within that he perceived his best friends as pieces of steak. If we lack the capacity to wield our shadow qualities when we need them most, they will surface regardless. The only difference is whether we are prepared to face them, or whether they will consume us. And then finally, back on the beach, with the help of some sushi cooked up by Rico, Alex stops hunting his friends, and after an emotional farewell with King Julian and Lord Mort, the group clamber back onto the boat and discuss their next location. For Alex, returning to the safe, comfortable world of the New York Zoo no longer compels him. Whereas before, Alex yearned for nothing more than a return to the safety of the zoo, he now wants to explore the world, a pioneer of the unknown. Alex's journey has taught him that in order to realise the very best of himself, he must explore the worst. He realises that whilst these instincts don't define who he is, they certainly are an inherent part of his existence, and one that if integrated could transform his life. Armed with the knowledge of his ancestors, and the strength to face who he truly is, Alex sets off into the sunset in search of his new adventure. Alex's journey throughout Madagascar is one of great struggle, torment, but ultimately of self-discovery. Alex learns that beyond his passive and docile persona nurtured by the zoo, exists an animalistic, carnal, aggressive nature that courses through the veins of his ancestors. And just as Alex's animalistic instincts were very much a part of who he was, our deepest and darkest qualities as human beings are just as much a part of our human nature as our highest and best qualities are. We cannot deny the existence of one without the other, just as we cannot accept the existence of one without the other. If we strive for the very best in ourselves, we do not leave the dark qualities behind to rot away in our shadows, but rather face these qualities, bring them into dominion and harness them as tools to improve. Neglecting fundamental aspects of ourselves can only leave gaping holes in our own character, ready for exploitation. Only by accepting the dark aspects of our personality can we begin to understand them, nurture them, and ultimately bring them into conscious existence in order to become the very best versions of ourselves. If you like this video and want to see more like this, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more. Thanks for watching.